Every leader knows that a thriving organization depends on the energy, productivity, and commitment of its people. But few leaders are able to cultivate the employee engagement and performance needed for this level of success. What's the difference? Positive leadership practices. Welcome to the Positive Leadership Movement Podcast with your host, positive work culture expert, Alex Bratty. Ready to harness the power of positive leadership? Let's dive right in.
Hello and welcome to episode 34 of the Positive Leadership Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bratty, and in this episode, we're going to talk about how positive leadership can help guide any diversity efforts you may be making right now or planning for the future. Of course, before we jump into all that, I just want to take a moment to thank you so much for being here. If you enjoy this show and get value from it, please subscribe, rate, and review it. And remember, if you've got a question about positive leadership, just drop me a line at questions@positiveleadershipmovement.com and I'll address it in a future episode. All right, let's get to our topic today, how positive leadership can support your diversity initiatives. Now, as I record this episode, we've had about 2 weeks of anti-racist protests both here in the US and around the world. And during that time, there have been calls to reform police departments. George Floyd's brother testified in Congress just this week and called on our elected officials to overhaul policing laws. And some municipalities have already even banned the use of chokeholds in policing. So things are happening. Right? Things are happening from a policy perspective, but corporations are also getting in on this wave of change. Numerous organizations have committed to substantial efforts and investment in changing how they operate. For example, Adidas, whatever way you want to say it, they're the sports apparel company. They have committed that 30% of their new hires will be Black or Latino. Best Buy CEO Corey Barry, for example, sent an email to customers recently letting them know that they are dedicated to listening and making changes. Here's just an excerpt of that email because I found it to be so powerful. So here's Corey Barry speaking in the email. For me, it starts with seeing the situation for what it is, acknowledging these experiences for what they are, and quite simply apologizing for not doing enough. As important, it includes committing the company I lead down a path of systemic, permanent change in as many ways as we can find. I don't have the answers, but I'm no longer okay with not asking the question. If everything were on the table, what could Best Buy do? With that in mind, I am appointing a diverse group by demography and level in the company to challenge one another and ultimately our senior leadership team and board of directors with substantive, enduring ways we can address the inequities and injustices to which all of us bear witness every day. Wow, pretty powerful. And I hope they follow through on it. Certainly, this is well intended. And several other well-known brands, of course, have followed suit. Some have pledged money to Black Lives Matter, or they're leading initiatives to bring more diversity, inclusion, and equity into their organization. All of this is real progress. It is encouraging to see so much action so quickly. And at the core of every single effort that we're seeing is the need for positive leadership. And I would even argue that if we want this progress to become long-term embedded in our culture, right, that these changes actually mean something and that they have enduring value, positive leadership is essential. And the reason I say that is because positive leadership, and you know this if you listen to this show, is all about doing what's right because it's the right thing to do. And the research shows that there are 3 crucial elements in being able to do the right thing. And those 3 elements they were identified actually by Kim Cameron, who is a highly esteemed researcher in the positive organizational field. And he identified in years of work that 3 crucial elements are important in positive leadership and being able to do the right thing. They are practicing compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. So let's dive into this a little bit, because these 3 tools, they're simple, but they are highly effective. And if you're leading right now and wanting to implement some kind of diversity initiative or do some listening with your organization, whatever it is, you need these tools in your toolbox. So let's talk about them. So number 1, compassion. Compassion is about listening openly and deeply to others. It's about really hearing what they're going through and putting yourself in their shoes, right? Walking a mile in the other person's shoes. It's about caring and being willing to lift up others. And now more than ever, we need compassion in the workplace. I think in the past, it's been thought that, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, all these ideas are a little too soft and woo-woo. But in fact, they're the opposite. They're what are going to give you the strength to move forward with these big changes, right? So we need compassion right now, especially if these recent diversity and inclusion efforts are going to manifest as long-term cultural changes. And in fact, compassion can transform your organization from somewhere people work for a paycheck to a place employees want to work because they're committed to the cause and they're proud to be part of a company that's making positive change. Now, there are 3 ways that you can cultivate more collective compassion in your organization. And I love that term, collective compassion, that came out of Kim Cameron's work, because we truly do need collective compassion right now. Yes, we can all be compassionate at an individual level, but boy, will it be so much more powerful if we can leverage the collective in this. So there's 3 ways. The first is collective noticing. And that is when, essentially, as leaders, we ask employees to vigilantly look out for each other and alert leaders when someone needs help, right? So we're actively having people just, be mindful, be vigilant. What's happening with people? Is someone struggling right now? What's going on with them? And letting leaders know so that they can do something about it, right? That they can address it with compassion. The second way is collective feeling. And this is realized when employees are asked to share how they're feeling. And it allows employees to feel connected and be seen and heard and understood. And I think this piece is particularly relevant right now because a lot of the organizations that I see that are moving forward with diversity efforts, the very first thing they're doing, and this is to their what am I trying to say? I think it's a great thing they're doing it. I can't think of the word. I'm stumbling over it. I think it's wonderful that they're starting with listening, because that is where we need to start. We need to start by listening to how people are feeling and what has, what has emerged for them in the past, what they're feeling right now, how they feel about things should move forward. And so collective feeling is a way to engage in collective compassion right now. So that is particularly relevant in these times. And then finally, also very relevant, is collective responding. Now, this can manifest in a bunch of different ways. I mean, it can be recognizing acts of compassion in the workplace. It can be allowing employees to donate paid time off and personal days to colleagues in need. Or, which might seem more relevant right now, it could be the organization coming together to support specific causes. And so these are different ways that you can cultivate collective compassion in your organization: collective noticing, collective feeling, and collective responding. The bottom line on compassion is that when you take the time to listen, and I mean really listen, I don't mean just a hat tip listen, I mean be present and really hear people. When you recognize what they're really dealing with and you respond with support, that is true compassion. And guess what? When you do that, employees feel seen, heard, safe, and valued. And that is what we want right now. We want to create that kind of culture. All right, let's look at the second element, which is forgiveness. Forgiveness is fundamental in healing wounds and moving forward together. I mean, we know this as individuals. We know this in our personal life. And like I said earlier, I mean, sometimes forgiveness kind of gets brushed aside in the corporate world because it just feels too kind of ooey gooey soft. But it's not. I mean, forgiveness can be difficult. And the fact of the matter is, if you are, as we were just talking about, offering up an open forum for employees to share and feel heard, right? If you're doing some kind of listening initiative right now, grievances are going to come up. I mean, that is a fact. So how do you handle this and begin the healing process, right? We can't heal until the grievances come up and they're addressed, right? And a big part of that is forgiveness. Now, the research shows there are 5 steps to this process. So the first one is to acknowledge what happened and the trauma that happened, that ensued from it. And then define it as an opportunity to move forward, which effectively is somewhat what we're doing as a nation right now. The trauma is certainly being acknowledged right now, and it is this moment is becoming an opportunity to move forward. So in the tragedy, yes, there's no taking back how tragic what happened was to George Floyd and numerous other Black people who have been unfairly discriminated against. There's no taking that back now, but this moment can be used as an opportunity to move forward. So that is the first step. The second step is to identify a purpose for employees by associating the organization's mission and intention with their personal values. And the reason to do this is to help replace feelings of victimization with purpose and fulfillment, right? So this is going to require a little bit of effort, right, in terms of thinking through, like, what is our mission and intention right now, and how can we align that with personal values so that we can move beyond the victimization and we can start to move forward with purpose. So identify a purpose is step 2. Step 3, communicate, and this is really important, that forgiveness does not excuse or condone past behavior. It does not. Instead, what forgiveness does in this situation is that it allows everyone involved to move on without dwelling on the negative. And again, this is so pertinent to where we are right now and the issues that we're facing. Number 4, provide social support for everybody involved to ensure that they feel humanized instead of victimized or alienated, and help everyone move forward together, right? And then the final piece is watch the language, right? Watch how you're speaking. And what I mean by that is to incorporate words like compassion, what we were just talking about, humility, love. Work those words and those feelings into your organization's language so that you can model a natural expression of forgiveness, right? And that last one might take a little bit of getting used to, but words have power. And so if you watch what you're saying, it can be part of this healing process as well, right? So these 5 elements of forgiveness have helped many organizations to successfully navigate turbulent situations, and not only navigate them, but come out stronger on the other side. So these can be helpful for you as you work to move forward in your diversity efforts. So just to recap, they are: acknowledge what happened, use it as an opportunity to move forward, identify a purpose by associating the organization's mission with personal values, communicate that forgiveness doesn't condone past action, but it does allow us to move on, provide social support, and watch the language. All right, and then let's get into the third element of what it takes to create a positive organization and what's relevant for today right now. Gratitude. So gratitude is this third essential component of doing the right thing. And when you really think about it, the simple act of thanking and expressing appreciation is a very powerful resource. I mean, think about it. People are exhausted right now. I mean, as George Floyd's brother told Congress this week, I'm tired. I am tired of pain. Those were his words. And a lot of people feel the same way, right? Many of your employees may feel that way too. I mean, they're already worn out by the upheaval caused by the coronavirus pandemic. Now, with that still going on in the background, everyone's dealing with this harrowing event of George Floyd being killed in broad daylight by the very people who are supposed to protect and serve us. The violent rioting that has happened, and sort of everything that's bubbling up right now from decades of systemic racism, right? It's a lot to deal with. People are exhausted. So if ever there were a time to express gratitude for your team, for their resilience in showing up day after day and doing the best they can under challenging circumstances, it's now. It is now. And of course, the beauty of gratitude, there are so many ways that you can do this, both for yourself and for your team, right? I mean, here I'm just going to rattle off some tried and tested practices. Pick one and run with it, right? A gratitude journal. Record 3 things that you are thankful for every day. Have your employees do the same. Start an organization-wide movement to record gratitude each day and share it and talk about it. Gratitude letter. Write and deliver a letter to someone who's had a positive impact in your life. Tell them what you're grateful for and what they mean to you. Gratitude cards. Write and send 3 to 5 cards to people in your organization every day. Just watch the ripple effect of that one. Open praise. I mean, positively praise employees in front of their managers, and then spread the gratitude, right? This is another way to create a ripple effect is let families of your employees know how grateful you are for those employees. So, send a letter to one of your team members' spouses telling them how grateful you are for that team member, and let that spouse know that. Like that one is a very powerful ripple effect. So lots of different ways to express gratitude, right? The journal, the letter, write the cards, open praise, spreading it by telling families about it. I mean, hey, when people feel appreciated, they feel valued, they feel included, and they feel on purpose. And we all need to feel that way right now if we are to heal collectively. So, as a positive leader, as you consider how to create more diversity, inclusion, and equity in your organization, remember that you have 3 simple but highly effective tools to help you do the right thing: compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. And they're free, and they're there for you to use every single day as you navigate through these times. So thank you for being a positive leader. And thank you for doing the right thing. If you want to share how you're using positive leadership to guide your diversity efforts, or you have questions on this topic, write to me at questions@positiveleadershipmovement.com. I always love to hear your inspirational stories and to get your questions, because we can talk about it on the show. I can share more resources with you. I love to be able to support you in whatever you are working on right now. All right, that's it from me for this week. I want to thank you for being part of this diverse and inclusive community, the Positive Leadership Movement. We love having you be part of this family. Thank you for listening and for motivating me to do what I do every single day.
Make sure you subscribe to the show. If you like this episode, please rate and review. If you want to get more from Alex, check out Happiness at Work, where she provides leaders with a proven path to cultivate a positive work culture that increases performance, productivity, and profitability. Go to happinessatworknow.com. Join us next week and harness the power of positive leadership for your organization.